So now let's go ahead and look at finding p-values for the t-table, since it's a little bit more complex. We've already learned how to do it for the z-table, but this is a different process. So what will happen is we're going to be looking for the test statistic, which is what we did on the z-table, but now we're going to be looking for it on the inside of the table versus the edges like we did on the z. And don't forget, we'll have to be under the correct degrees of freedom row in the middle. So once we find it, we're going to read up and take the p-value. It says the appropriate column, although maybe I meant the word row there. Because since we have 1 and 2 tail rows at the top, we will not have to double the value for a 2-tail test. Okay, there's 3 scenarios we're going to look at, and here's the first one. The test statistic you're looking for is actually inside the table. This is never going to happen. It will be a test question at the best, but it's a good starting spot. So I'm trying to solve a problem for a p-value where I have a right tail test, which means I probably have a positive test statistic, which I do, and I have a sample size. So I go to row degrees of freedom n-1, so row 5. I look for the test statistic, and when I read up, I go to 1 tail because a right tail test is 1 tail. When I do that, I actually find 0.01, and that is my p-value. My answer is 0.01. Next example. I have a 2-tailed test since I have not equal to for my alternate hypothesis. So I go to row degrees of freedom n-1, which is row 19. But remember, the table only has positive values, so I'm looking for positive 1.729, and this is actually listed in your table. I'll read up to the top, and I'll see 0.051 tail and 0.102 tail in the same column. But we said this was a 2-tail test, so our p-value is 0.10, the 2-tail value. Next example. I have a left tail test, and this just really tells me that I have a 1-tail test. So when I get to the top, I need to be sure to be under row 1 tail. Be careful. P-values do never equal negative numbers. Now, if you're doing a left tail test, you'll probably get a negative test statistic. You will have a negative critical value. But remember, p-values are never negative. So I go to row n-1, which is 24. I do find positive 1.318. And when I read straight up, I see 0.101 tail, which is really all I needed. But remember, be careful, there's another set of numbers there. And I get the p-value of 0.10.